Welcome to the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, where rude mechanicals do magic. Hello, I'm Bronze Age, Director of the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, and welcome to another episode of Chair Hospital Ottoman Ward. This is a nice piece of furniture with a velour fabric that's been tufted, or as in my neighborhood we would say diamond tuck, because that's the way poor people say tuft. When someone brings a piece of furniture to the lab for repair, they're often pleasantly surprised by how reasonable the cost seems to be, and that's usually because they're comparing it to the cost of having a piece reupholstered. In this case, with the button tufting, every single one of these little buttons is tied to these strings, which is pulled through and then stapled in place to hold it down, and they do that all the way across the top here. Incredibly labor intensive and time consuming. So while my labor rates may be the same as the upholsterer, is the kinds of repairs I do just don't take that much time. The way the legs are attached on this is pretty simple and seriously not really adequate for the job. This little plastic piece here holds a threaded piece that goes down in there into this wood, and that's a natural weak point, simply because when the leg gets stressed to the side like that, if there's nothing to resist it from the back, when it starts to pull out, it just comes out completely. The previous pair was attempted with Gorilla Glue, which is a good glue for the proper applications. The way it works is that it reacts with moisture in the air, which it swells up, and then it gets really sticky, and it basically holds on to anything that it touches. The problem is that you have to have all your parts tightly clamped together in position so they can't move, because there's enough pressure when that swelling glue is it'll just simply force the pieces apart and out of position. This is not a good application for it. And it also makes a good bit more work for the person who comes along behind it, who has to try and get all the Gorilla Glue off before they can start the repair. Now for reattaching the leg, I've got a couple choices. I can go back with the way it was originally. This metal sleeve has coarse wood threads around the outside, and it's simply driven down in with a hex wrench like that. And this got its advantages is that you don't have to get to the back side of it. If you can get to the back side, then a little piece like this I think is much better. And this way, when the leg goes in from this side, then we're going to be having a really strong metal joint right there pulling down. Problem is, metric threads. Problem solved. Because for some reason in the United States, we still have imperial threads that the rest of the world abandoned a long, long time ago. Sometimes I wonder if all the familiar tool names that we know, Craftsman and the like, would still be doing better if they had not had to keep two lines of tools in their inventory for the past basically 50 years. Now the problem with either of these methods is they both require a hole that size, and I've got a hole that size. And making a hole smaller is always a lot more work than making it bigger. So in this case, the procedure starts with making the hole even bigger. And I put this collar on here because this little point here has nowhere to dig into. And I don't want this thing all wallowing around because I really do need a fairly smooth hole. Which that is probably as smooth as I need. The solution to the even bigger hole is this wooden plug that I've got the nut driven into the back of it. It's going to go down in here like this, and I'm going to be using quick-set epoxy. And one of the hazards of working on furniture that still has the upholstery on it is dripping glue or anything else on the upholstery. So I'm going to take good care not to get anything messed up. Go mix up the epoxy and stick this in here. Now epoxy needs to be mixed thoroughly because it's a chemical reaction that depends on the molecules of the one part getting close enough to the molecules of the other part, and they're not going to go wandering around looking for each other. You've got to get them thoroughly acquainted. So this is supposed to be 5-minute epoxy, which I have found through experience not to be totally true. It will get pretty thick and unusable in 5 minutes, but it's by no means as strong as it's going to be. But I like to mix it for a full minute just to be sure. One of the advantages of epoxy is it is good at filling gaps. So in a case like this where it's not quite as precise as I might like it to be, I can get this in here and be fairly confident. I'm glad I dropped it in that little pot. Use all the excess here to fill in the gap. And get it down flat. And I'm going to let it sit for about an hour. And that will be plenty strong for our purposes. In the meantime, I'm going to swab out the lag studs, which is easy enough. You just put 2 nuts on it, tighten them down, and that will lock a stud in place. And we can just unscrew this. And the other one goes back on the same way. Well, it's the Bronze Age for the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage. I appreciate you sitting through this video about putting a very nice Ottoman back on its feet. I would really appreciate it if you would hit the thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't already. I answer all questions, respond to all comments, and I do appreciate them all. And again, I appreciate you watching. Thank you very much.